Hello and welcome to the Media Box. I'm Ian Whistler, and today we're going to delve into the mother of all crossovers. The RPG probably everyone had for their PlayStation 2. It featured all of the favorites from Square Enix and Disney. I am, of course, talking about Kingdom Hearts. What else would I be talking about? This is a game practically everyone and their mother owned, being the 9th best-selling game on the console, racking in a whopping 4.78 million copies sold. This game took some of the best things from Square Enix's characters and games and combined them with the world and people of Disney's universe and blended them together to create a game which stands out in quite a way. It is unique in many ways, and not everything this game has to offer was ripped from another game, but instead came up with a lot of its own innovative and creative ideas. So without further ado, I present to you Kingdom Hearts. The game begins with the main character Sora falling from blackness onto a large stained glass floor adorned with a Disney princess and being spoken to by an unknown voice. This is obviously the tutorial area and runs you through the basics of movement and how to rotate the camera and interacting with the environment, the usual, a small boss fight, and then we take our first steps into the world of Kingdom Hearts. We find Sora awakening on a beach on Destiny Island, his home, being called to by his friend / kinda love interest, not exactly sure, Kairi. From here, we're also introduced to Sora's other friend, Riku. This trio of friends are building a raft as they plan to leave home in the search of new worlds and possibly Kairi's home. While on Destiny Island, you're supposed to be collecting things to prepare the raft for its maiden voyage, but what's much more fun to do is beat up child versions of characters from Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy VIII. You can pick your poison of Tidus, Wakka, or Selphie, or all three at the same time. You can also choose to fight Riku, but he is definitely a rough and tough customer, far above those of our young Final Fantasy characters. After you've had your fill of beating Final Fantasy children, you can head home and rest, and then do it again. Well, it's a little different the second day as you now have to race Riku, but the Final Fantasy kids remain. But while you're on your scavenging for your raft stuff, you'll wander into the secret place on the island, which has a large door and some drawings. Let's not also forget you'll meet a man in a large brown cloak. He exchanges words with Sora, basically calling him an idiot, and then he disappears.
There is so very much to learn. You understand so little.
Oh yeah? Well, you'll see. I'm gonna get out and learn what's out there.
A meaningless effort. One who knows nothing can understand nothing.
And after that, you've probably had your fill the second day. You head home, and then things really start to kick up. A storm strikes Destiny Island, but not any normal storm, a more sinister storm. The darkness and the Heartless have come, and they're swarming all over Destiny Island. It is here that Sora is given the gift of the Keyblade, and the ability to fight off the Heartless. The door in the secret place opens, and the darkness consumes Destiny Island, and Sora is thrown from it into our next world, Traverse Town. Now, while this is happening, we're introduced to Goofy and Donald, who arrive at the same place, Traverse Town, looking for a key that King Mickey told them they'd have to follow and help. Well, after you explore Traverse Town a little, you meet our first adult Final Fantasy character, Squall/Leon, who then proceeds to kick you around like a sack of potatoes. You can defeat him, but good luck in your pursuit. Well, if you can beat him or not doesn't really matter. He takes you to a hotel where you meet Yuffie, and in the next room over, Aerith. Surprisingly, she's alive. And Aerith is talking to Goofy and Donald. After some conversating, a Heartless attacks, and you and Squall give chase, where you encounter what looks like a rejected Rayman boss. But this boss is where you first pair up with Donald and Goofy, and the trio is born. After defeating this monstrous fellow, it's time to go to the other world and save them from the Heartless. Our first two worlds to go to are Hercules' world, the Colosseum, or Alice in Wonderland. The best way to go is to start with Alice in Wonderland, as you can only practice in the Coliseum until you clear Alice in Wonderland. But you do return to fight in several cups that you have to do to seal the keyhole: Phil, Pegasus, and the Hercules Cup. And some after that, but we'll get to those later. In the world of Alice and her Wonderland, you have to collect evidence to prove Alice's innocence, as she has been accused of trying to steal the Queen of Hearts, heart. Though I'm not really sure she has one, if we're being honest here. This is also the first world where you see Sora seal the world, which is shown by the Keyblade shooting a beam of light into the keyhole of the world. The keyhole is what protects the world from being overtaken by Heartless. If the Heartless were to get inside the keyhole, the entire world would be destroyed and would collapse under the darkness. After Alice in Wonderland, we head to the Deep Jungle, home of Tarzan, which is probably the most confusing place to visit by far. I just can't escape it. It's unending. I just don't know where to go half the time. Here, we fight the evil Clayton and his super chameleon and seal another world from safety. The next world we travel to is Agrabah, the world of Aladdin, where we fight the Heartless in the heart of the city, purify the Cave of Wonders of Darkness, then travel within to defeat Jafar once in his normal wizard form, and the second time in his genie form. Then it's another keyhole locked and another world saved, all with the help of everyone's favorite street rat, Aladdin. From there, we head to Monstro, where we meet Riku for the second time, the last time being on a return visit to Traverse Town. This time, his intentions are far more evil, as he kidnaps Pinocchio not once, but twice. You fight the same boss twice, just with a few new moves, and then Monstro promptly spits you out. Then we go under the sea to meet Ariel and friends. Ursula steals the trident from King Triton, and it's our job to get it back, of course. Travel to her lair and defeat her, but she flees and gets huge using the power of the trident, leading to another boss battle. But after that, of course, we defeat her, we take the trident back, and we seal the keyhole, which is revealed to us by King Triton himself. From there, we travel to Halloween Town, my favorite world personally, but also one of the shortest. Jag is collecting the ingredients to create a heart, but it is quickly stolen by Lock, Stock, and Barrel. After roughing them up a little bit, you confront Oogie Boogie, defeat him, but then you must fight Oogie Boogie's actual lair, for he has become one with his lair. You have to strike purple darkness on his body, and then he'll be destroyed. It's a pretty simple fight, nothing major, nothing hard. After this, it's off to Neverland, where we escape Captain Hook's ship, feed Captain Hook to the crocodile, and fight our evil shadow, much like Peter Pan of course, which Riku has set upon us. Then we fly to Big Ben and seal the keyhole. Then it's off to Hollow Bastion, where Riku steals the Keyblade from Sora, because he has a stronger heart. And then Goofy and Donald must go off with him, because King Mickey instructed them to follow the key, not Sora. This leaves you and Beast, who is searching for Belle, to go through Hollow Bastion alone, but only for a short while, and then the gang is reunited, and after spending time alone with Beast, Sora learns that it's not the Keyblade that is strong, it's his heart, and is able to get his Keyblade back from Riku. Riku, feeling hopeless, is approached by the same hooded man from the beginning of Destiny Island. And after fighting this man who's possessed Riku's body, we learn he is Ansem, a man who has studied the darkness and wants to absorb and control the everlasting darkness. However, after defeating him, Sora makes an ultimate sacrifice, giving up his life to give Kairi back her heart, so that the keyhole in Hollow Bastion may be revealed. However, this releases hordes of Heartless upon the world, and Donald, Goofy, and Kairi must flee. But as they flee, they encounter Sora as a Heartless, and in a heartwarming moment, Kairi is able to provide Sora the light to literally escape the everlasting darkness. After this, we return to Traverse Town to prepare for another move on Hollow Bastion. You return to seal the keyhole once and for all, then we learn it's time to venture to the end of the world and defeat Ansem, and finally rid the world of the darkness and the Heartless. The game's art style is very polished and well done. Some worlds give Sora, Donald, and Goofy a different look altogether, making them fit in better with the world around them. The designs of Riku, Kairi, and Sora are all a little odd. I mean, look at these outfits, and especially Sora's shoes. They're awful, or there's a lot of big feet on Destiny Island. All the worlds very nicely take aspects from the movies they're from, but also use original designs, which look just as wonderful and fit in beautifully with the world. This includes the Heartless, as they all have very unique designs based on the world they're in. Now, some Heartless stay throughout everything, they stay throughout every world you go to, but there are some that are different and are special to that world. Like, for instance, in Agrabah, there are Heartless that are dressed in Arabian clothing, and they use a scimitar instead of, like, their hands or something. All the worlds very nicely take aspects from the movies they're from, but also use original designs, which look just as wonderful and fit in beautifully with the world. In combats, the effects given off by the attacks from Donald, Goofy, and Sora's weapons, along with the magic that you cast, look very flashy and make combat look even more interesting than it usually is on its own. However, after you flee Hollow Bastion for the first time, all of the worlds have beefed up Heartless and more of them spawn, which makes exploring and collecting new treasures extremely time-consuming, as you have to fight off several waves of Heartless. For instance, I fought for about 20 minutes in Wonderland just to activate one treasure chest which had a healing potion, and that was it. It's very unfortunate because most of these worlds require you to go back and backtrack to acquire new items. However, it's sometimes just a chore. There's some things that you just don't really need or aren't really that important. The game's soundtrack is extremely charming in a lot of ways. Every world has at least 2 tracks, an exploration track and a combat track. Some worlds have more than just these, but all of them at least have these too. The songs have a lot going for them and tend to take key parts of the world's movie soundtrack and adds them to the piece, taking a lot of inspiration from the movies. These tracks loop very well, but sometimes can get grating, listening to the same track for a very long time, especially in areas where you make several trips. Like Traverse Town, for example. That song will be embedded in your brain by the time you finish the game, and you'll find yourself humming it when you're idly working or doing other things. My least favorite track is probably Ariel's World, just because it doesn't loop as well as the other songs and doesn't really deliver the same way the other tracks do. Agrabah's track has probably one of the best, along with an honorable mention from Hollow Bastion. Hollow Bastion's is very moody and dark and goes very well with the world around it. I personally think it does an excellent job of delivering the atmosphere that is needed from Hollow Bastion, because it's the big climax to the evil that is Maleficent. So overall, I think the soundtrack as a whole is very good, but some songs just don't deliver in the same way the others do. When it comes to the gameplay, the game functions on RPG stats for every character. Donald is a mage, so he has low defense but a high amount of mana and magic attack, while Goofy falls more into a tank or fighter type depending on how you build him. Sora is a red mage, skilled in both melee, combat, and magic, if we're going by Final Fantasy rules, that is. The combat is real-time, and the combos Sora does are controlled just by the attack button, with some abilities thrown in that add some spice, like rolling and counterattacking. Speaking of abilities, you pick and choose what abilities our 3 heroes use in the abilities menu. Each character has a certain amount of ability points, AP, that they can spend on skills. These can be turned on and off at will, giving you a lot of opportunity to mix it up and see what fits your playstyle the best. Also, as the game progresses, you gain the ability to use summons, which can only be used with a full party of 3, and everyone must be alive to use it. Each summon provides a different type of effect, doing something to drastically change the course of battle. Overall, the gameplay gets a little button mashy, but with magic and summons, you do have enough to mix it up just a little bit, though it's still lacking in this department. Overall, probably the weakest part of the game as a whole. While it does deliver and it does have good things to it, it just isn't as strong as the soundtrack, as the world around it. It just doesn't feel as good. It's the least polished part of all. Now, I'm not saying the combat is bad and the gameplay is bad. I'm saying that it's the least polished. It's mediocre. It's not as good as the rest of the game. So after making any final preparations, Sora, Donald, and Goofy venture to the end of the world. You can go take part in the Hades Cup at the Coliseum to farm up for the daunting task, or go straight to it. When you arrive, you find it almost empty, just a clear pool and some rocks pointing you the way to get to a large portal, since there are large invisible walls you can't get around. There are some encounters on the way, but you make it to the portal where you go to a room that resembles a blue mouth with a large pyre in the center. Entering this pyre takes you back to Traverse Town, where you must fight waves of Heartless, and you repeat this process through all the worlds we've visited, getting a place of rest in the 100-acre wood. Then it's a hallway of Heartless, a large room where you have to fight several waves to open a small heart-shaped door to the final rest, where you make preparations to fight Ansem. When you enter the door, you find yourself back on Destiny Island, and Ansem reveals himself initially as Riku, but then he reveals his true form. Then the battle begins. He has a guardian, his shadow, who does most of the fighting, throwing discs at you or punching you and attaching himself to you and dashing around. After you beat him, he destroys part of Destiny Island, and when you give chase, he separates you from Goofy and Donald. And then you fight a large Heartless, which is very similar to the one at the beginning of the game. Then you face off with Ansem one-on-one. His shadow is part of him, so it counts as one. After defeating him, you enter a place of complete darkness, Kingdom Hearts, the place where every person and every world's heart is created. Here, Ansem transforms into a huge battleship, and you must defeat him alone yet again. He has a large two-sided blade and lasers to shoot at you, but after defeating him, you venture into the darkness and rescue Goofy, and destroy the front end of the ship. After doing this, you rescue Donald, and then it's time to defeat Ansem once and for all. The fight isn't much different. There are more lasers, and he has an ability where he summons a huge rift of darkness and it fires beams of darkness at you, but persevere and you'll arise the victor. Ansem pleads with the door to Kingdom Hearts to grant him more power, believing that within it there is complete darkness. He is mistaken, and the door to Kingdom Hearts opens, flooding him an array of light. Donald, Goofy, and Sora then try to shut the door, but are unable to do it alone. Riku, freed from Ansem, offers his help from the inside, as does the King, who is none other than Mickey, of course, who is revealed to be a Keyblade Master as well. After the door is shut, he and Sora together seal Kingdom Hearts away from the darkness, Mickey being inside with Riku. After this, all the worlds lost to darkness are restored to what they once were, and everyone is returned to their homes, including Kairi. However, Goofy, Donald, and Sora are still together, and they three return to King Mickey's castle. So, in conclusion, Kingdom Hearts is a solid RPG and combines some of my favorite characters from the Disney and Final Fantasy franchises into one game, and they do it so well. All the different worlds feel very fleshed out, and I enjoy exploring, even though when you get to a later part of the game, and it's almost impossible to do anything without getting barraged with constant enemies. The characters are well developed, though some could use a bit more fleshing out. I'm looking at you, Riku, but overall, the game is a great piece of work. Of course, as I mentioned, the gameplay is mediocre, could have been done a lot better. My final score for Kingdom Hearts is an 8.5 out of 10.